This story starts with the phrase, "live for your house." That's what the father always told our protagonist. The meaning behind it was that he should never desire anything for himself, and should always live in the shadow of his older brother. Our hero falls to the ground, and the soldiers around him say they never imagined one person could stand against so many knights. A man with long hair says it's expected from the brother of that person. The man standing in front of him is Boris, who gives a twisted smile as Sean asks, "Who sent him?" With daggers in hand, he wants to know if it was the Emperor. As Xian activates his power, Boris mocks the disgusting Mist and says that Xian is an assassin from the Mist group. Because of that, he must be eliminated for affiliating with heretics. Owen wishes him luck in trying to get out alive, but Boris tells him that he's already placed a 9-star barrier around the area. Owen realizes he must get out quickly and find out who caused the incident involving his brother. He tells Boris that he will break through any barrier he put up. Suddenly, someone says, "Stop, Xian." Xian is startled and speechless, remembering his father's words, "Live for your house," and how his brother, Ekal, is the house itself. The success of the house depends on Ekal's success. Xian can't believe it. The one behind it all, in the end, was his own brother. He falls to his knees while Ekal asks why he's there. As his brother approaches, Xian asks what all this means. Eshel says that Shinin has done his job very well so far, but for the sake of the house, and of Shinin himself, he will now free him from his sins. Shinin doesn't understand what he did wrong. Looking at his mist, Eshel says it's disgusting, and that Shinin hasn't been human for a long time. He shouts that Shinin has been deceiving everyone. Shinin thinks about those words and loses his mind. It doesn't make sense. The troubles with the Imperial throne, the subjugation of the Demon King's army, the war to unify the continent, he helped his brother win all of that and achieve everything he has. He punches the ground, saying that the life he was given, he dedicated to that person, and now he wants to throw him away, after going so far. After working like a dog for 20 years. Xuan says that even if his body breaks, he'll give everything he has in this moment, as long as he can kill him. The soldiers are shocked by the mana he still has. Transformed, Xuan says his brother is shameful, the only so-called hero, trying to kill a member of his own family. Echel looks with contempt, and Xian charges. He's managing to hold his own, saying he only needs one strike. He sees an opening and goes for the attack, but hits a barrier. The fight isn't one-on-one. Boris is protecting Echel, who takes advantage of it, and lands a blow to Xian's stomach. With his sword lodged in Xian, Echel says he considered letting him go easily, but now Xian has shown his dark side. Echel says he's relieved he never trusted Xian, not even for a second. He pulls out the sword, kicks San and leaves with his group. Lying on the ground, San thinks what a ridiculous end this is. It makes no sense to die like this. But suddenly, he attacks again, saying, "Die," as he presses a dagger to Echel's neck. However, a burst of light sweeps through his body. A voice calls him young master, and a boy wakes up, sweating in bed. The maid asks how long he plans to sleep. Sensei asks if it's Emily. Looking at her, he says it's been 20 years since they met. But she looks just like the day he first saw her. He recognizes the room. It's the one he lived in when he was younger. It hits him. He's returned to the past. Emily tells him to stop stalling in bed and go train. He wonders what training she's talking about. Realizing he's back in the duchy of House Vert, he's certain this is the past. Maybe they're just memories, but he remembers everything perfectly. It's the 1st of March 27 years ago, 1 year before he entered the academy. At the beginning of each month, there was a public sparring event, an important occasion even for his father. His opponent was a boy named Krant, a brother born from another mother but the same age as him. His own mother, Marguerite, was the Duke's official wife. Because of that, her son received much more attention. Lucien, being the son of a concubine, was humiliated that day. It was then that his father told him to do nothing and give up. Emily asks him why he won't give up now. Now, he says he'll win quickly. However, he hesitates when he realizes that even a simple thin sword feels extremely heavy in this body. Now, he's sure this isn't a dream, or just a memory. Still, he's never heard of magic like this, and starts to wonder if he really did go back to the past. Krante says it's impressive that he didn't run away. When Sean looks at his father, the man simply says to begin. His brother charges at him, asking where he's looking, clearly confident that this will be easy. But Sean wonders why he's moving so slowly. One step to the side and his brother swings at the air. Krantez calls him a coward, and moves in for another strike. But Sean lands a hit that makes him drop his sword. Then, a kick to the shin leaves Krantez in agony, and he falls to the ground crying. His mother calls out for him while their father seems intrigued. Looking at him on the floor, Cyan knows that if he puts the blade to Krante's neck, it'll be over. But he remembers how, in the past, this guy used to torment him. The bullying continued even at the academy. So now, he has to end this, to make sure Krantes never dares do anything like that again. In this second life he's been given, he's going to live for himself. The fight ends with Krantes completely defeated. The Duke delays some of his plans because he wants to speak with Cyan and even assigns one of his knights to keep an eye on him. In the hallway, Cyan sees Krante's mother and is sure she just returned from the infirmary. With a mischievous smile, Cyan asks, "Is your son doing well, Duchess?" She snaps back, calling him shameless for saying that after doing such a thing to his brother. Oken, Cyan ignores her, saying things like that are normal during training. The Duchess says that's exactly why illegitimate children shouldn't be spoken to. Filthy mothers, filthy sons, she says, adding that he should have been picking garbage off the streets. Cyan looks back, thinking she crossed the line, and wonders if he should kill her. But instead, he smiles, remembering he knows how to make her suffer slowly. He tells her that he'll be joining the same academy as Krantes. She asks what he means by that. He wonders aloud if she isn't worried about her son's graduation. She scowls and moves to slap him, asking how he dares say such things. But the guard steps in and protects Cyan, apologizing to her. Still, the Duke is calling for the boy, so they can't waste time there. Cyan stares at the Duchess and says they're leaving. She remains angry, but there's nothing she can do. Cyan did that because he knows that the Duke's order is absolute, and the knight was ordered to protect him. In the office, his father tells him to come in. Cyan enters and introduces himself, thinking that the last time he saw this man like this was 15 years ago. Duke Vert, people call him the protector of the continent. With his magical power and military strategies, he stopped the demon army's invasion. Even if the entire Demon King's army wanted him dead, all he ever wanted was peace for the continent. But that was only how he was in Cyan's memories, someone who dedicated his whole life to serving the people and being an admirable man. The first thing the Duke says is that he noticed Cyan saw the sword coming and dodged it. Cyan is confused, but the Duke explains that when Krantes ran in, Cyan easily saw the sword's trajectory and turned to avoid it. He asks when Cyan learned that kind of swordsmanship. Cyan is impressed by how observant his father is and says he taught himself. Wallace says that, as far as he knew, Cyan had no interest in swordsmanship, or was he hiding his skills all along? Cyan says he didn't want to stand out too much. Wallace replies that it's impressive that he beat Krantes even while holding back, but then he hesitates and asks why Cyan struck his brother like that at the end. Cyan wonders, is he recognizing me as someone strong? Then he says he wanted to prove something. Wallace asks, what did you want to prove? Cyan says, even though we're brothers, I wanted to prove that I'm better than Krante. His father bursts into laughter, then says it's incredible to hear such a direct and honest answer. He hopes that one day, Suan will become a strong ally of Ekrel. The name Ekrel shocks Suan and he wonders why he would ever want to ally with that guy. In the end, his father's obsession with Ekrel hasn't changed at all. He clenches his fists but says nothing. Wallace says there won't be any reward ceremony, but he can ask for something. Shen's plan is obvious. He wants to destroy everything Eder is working toward, so he tells his father what he wants. It cuts to the maid asking if he really wants to go to the warfront. He says yes. She's shocked and asks if he's out of his mind. He has no idea how terrifying that place is. It's filled with demons, monsters, and creatures. In the western part of the Empire of Velhaz, there's a place known as the continent's frontline, a battlefield where an endless war against the demon army has been raging for 100 years. Because of that, his father, initially hesitant, gave him a condition. He would have to be qualified enough to go there. But Cyan didn't know exactly what that meant. One thing is certain though, he has to become as strong and as fast as possible. Fortunately, he still retains all his battle knowledge from before his regression, and can even feel a bit of demonic power inside him. He just needs to train, and eventually he'll be able to use it. Suddenly, the door bursts open, and someone yells his name. With a hand on her hip, he recognizes her. It's Big Sister Alice. Whoa! Welcome back. She grabs him by the collar, and the maid asks where she's been, while Lucy is shouting at Cyan asking if he's lost his mind. She heard that he asked their father to send him to the front lines. Cyan is begging her to let go of him. She throws him to the ground and tells him he's getting too full of himself just because he defeated Krantes. She yells in his face, telling him to go up to the roof right now. Outside the castle, the two meet on a bridge. Ely says the match will begin the moment he touches his sword. After that, he just has to survive for 3 minutes, and she'll allow him to go to the front lines. Shan wonders if they really need to do this, but Elise ignores him and says she has a question. Is he planning to succeed the family? Shan is caught off guard, but he has no interest in that at all. Before he can answer, Belisi tells him to draw his sword. He thinks that he's barely regressed and is already being forced to fight twice. Without saying a word, he charges forward because he touched the sword, but he's startled, not knowing why. He manages to block her strike, and she's confused that he was able to block it at all. Shincharan is in disbelief that she's seriously going all out against a brother who's 7 years younger. Hale steps back gracefully, thinking it's impossible that he blocked her long sword with just that thin rapier. She bites her lip, thinking maybe it was just luck, and says aloud that he seems to be better than she thought. Shendrain realizes now he's in trouble, as she comes at him with a flurry of slashes that are hard for him to dodge. She leaps into the air to prepare a vertical strike. Shendrain manages to defend with his shoulder. Her blade slides down his and ends up near her neck. Elise flinches in shock, and Shendrain realizes he messed up. He twists his arm, and both of them pull back. He stops on top of a pillar and thinks that it would have been dangerous if he hadn't moved the sword. He could have killed her. All the assassination techniques he learned are designed for instant kills. He doesn't know how to fight without killing, but she still wants to continue for 3 minutes. It's going to be dangerous for her. Maybe he could channel some mana into his blade, but he's already running low on energy. Suddenly, Elisa begins chanting an incantation, calling for the wind to become her sword. Shen immediately recognizes it as a 6-star magic spell. Her blade begins to glow with the activation of Water Blade. The boy is crying now. She's really trying to kill me. This isn't a test at all. Meanwhile, Elise keeps repeating to herself that she cannot lose no matter what. On the edge of the wall, Shen realizes the problem. If he reflects her attack, he might end up either killing her or knocking her off. If that's the case, he jumps toward her as she raises her sword, releasing a beam of light. Shen pleads internally, begging something inside him to stop hesitating and come out already. As Elise prepares to deliver the slash, just before impact, a knight steps between them and yells, "That's enough." He blocks Elise's attack with his sword and grabs Shen by the collar. The impact echoes through the entire castle. The knight glares at Elise, saying she's gone too far against a young boy. Cyan feels relieved. He had been waiting for this guy to show up, but he took too long. When Elise sees the knight's sword, she seems to snap out of it. She immediately runs to Cyan, hugs him and apologizes, saying she lost control. She cries on his shoulder, saying the last thing she wanted was for him to go to the front lines. She's too worried about him. As she embraces him, Siming thinks that she truly is an Onim, a person who studied at one of the academies of Grau and was one of the most qualified swordswomen. On top of that, she had a beautiful face and was recognized as the daughter of God. Everyone believed she would one day stand beside the protector of the continent and the Vert family. However, not long after joining the Knights of Light, she met a tragic end. Shen hugs her back, saying he missed her, and this time he's going to protect her. Elise then asks the knight why he's here. Is he the Duke's bodyguard? The knight replies that he's here under the Duke's orders to protect the young master. Shen thinks back and realizes he had felt this man's presence ever since leaving the Duke's office. That's why he was so mad that the guy took so long to appear. He almost passed out. What he still doesn't understand is why his father sent someone to protect him in secret. Shen then collapses on Elise's shoulder. She smiles softly, thinking, he really is still a child. The next day she returned to the academy, and Shoan resumed his training to prepare for his next meeting with his father. All he could do was push his body to the limit to build up stamina, but the poor guy is exhausted. 10 push-ups is the most he can handle. Remembering his peak Kegan, he realizes he'll need to take drastic measures. Suddenly, Emily walks into the room and says that Alaiti sent him something, but then she says it smells awful. What is that? After Alaiti attacked him, she sent Hullhound blood as an apology gift. Because of its terrible smell and disgusting appearance, everyone assumes it's poison, but in reality, it has the power to permanently boost stamina in anyone who drinks it. Holding her nose, Emily asks if he's really going to drink that. Shen says yes, and jokes that he's the only one who can even eat her cooking. So this should be fine. He remembers the purple mushroom soup she made before, and this smells way better than that disaster. He slams the cup down on the table and says it was delicious. She's standing there, so fine, he'll pretend it was. Now radiating a strange aura, Cyan calls out to Emily, who asks what's going on. He looks back with glowing red eyes and says he's going for a walk. He wants to see how the medicine is working. He begins walking outside the castle and stops near a large stone, saying he's been wanting to come here for a long time. This was the place he used to visit when he wanted to be alone. But one day, a revelation from the God of Light was given to his brother Ekal about an ancient temple hidden in this place. Saman had always been skeptical about that story. As he touches the ground, he mutters that no one knows about this revelation yet. Suddenly, the ground cracks open and a red mist begins to rise. He says that what he's about to do is something Ekul could never have imagined. Looking at the underground passage, Xuan wonders if it's finally time. As he walks inside, he notes how different it looks from before. This was once a place that served the god of light, until it was destroyed. That happened during the Holy War 300 years ago. Suming says that it's hard to believe a place like this even exists. On top of the altar he sees a glowing sword and immediately recognizes it as the sacred weapon of that temple. Back in the year 999, the humans finally managed to drive the demons out of the Velha's empire. That's when they discovered divine artifacts, known as the Treasures of God. One of those artifacts was the holy sword Drandark, the blade that led humanity into war against the demons. It was the same sword that Ekul used to kill him during his tragic end. Staring at the sword, Sumjranga wonders if it's somehow connected to his regression. He touches it hesitantly, but then lowers his head, saying he knew nothing would happen. Frustrated, he kicks the sword and walks away, saying that it made him feel worthless. But then, shadows start appearing beneath the light. Suming says he's finally found what he was looking for. Looking at the ground, he notes that anyone would think it's just the sword's shadow, but it isn't just a shadow. He touches the floor and says, "Where there is light, there is shadow." Suddenly, stairs appear, leading down to a door swallowed in darkness. Xian opens the door, hesitating, and when he looks at the altar inside, he finally finds what he came for, the demonic blade. Ear on. He grips the dagger. There's a carved crystal embedded in the dagger. Xian speaks to the blade, telling it that it can wake up now. He continues swinging it in all directions, a bit hesitant seeing that apparently it really is still asleep, but he's clearly falling for it. Swinging a blade he used his whole life really does feel kind of nice. Suddenly, a shadow begins to rise from the ground, saying that he is a very brave child. The shadow asks Cyan if he knows the meaning of taking that dagger. He replies that it means it's his now. The shadow grows larger, and says she can't believe he actually awakened a demonic blade. With a creepy tone, she says it's too late. She flies toward him, saying that now his body belongs to her. However, Xian grabs her by the neck, leaving her confused. A face appears within the shadows, and Xian says that back then, he didn't have much choice. The blade asks how he's able to touch her, and he answers that he already told her, she's his now. The painted pink-clawed blade slashes at him, but he dodges and steps back. She takes the opportunity to gain some distance, and wow, that's the strongest weapon I've ever seen a protagonist wield. She then asks who he is. Seeing the shadow emerging from his body, she wants to know if he's the heir, or at least, why he possesses the heir's energy. He says yes, he is the heir. Now that he's the master, she'd better behave and bow her head. Kiran is seething with rage, saying he's just a brat. She charges at him, saying she won't accept this. While defending himself, Xian knows that the blade's true purpose is to steal the body of its wielder, so there's no way around it. She's just about to strike, when he wonders if he should hold back. With a sly smile, he activates the control of the demonic blade. Kiran is slammed to the ground, unable to comprehend what just happened. He warns her that he'll say this only once, she should accept it while he's still being nice. Completely suppressed, Kiran wants to know how he's using this ability. Sumian simply activates the blade's control again, and slams her to the ground. Before she can say anything he activates it 3 more times. Seeing her buried into the floor, he asks if she understands now. She replies that she truly does recognize him as her master. He's about to use the power one last time, when she calls him my lord. With that, Shenj completes his goal there. He wonders if he should return before someone notices he's gone. In his hands, Kiran says she's looking forward to feeling the fresh air outside. She's super excited, even tossing out a little heart emoji. She's all curious, asking for his name. When he tells her, the blade asks if he really was chosen as the heir. Xian says yes, but that it happened in his past life. Now she's confused by this whole past life business. He explains that he's already died once. She looks even more puzzled. This guy is seriously unhinged. When he approaches the sword, she tells him that it's asleep, and Shin responds that its owner will show up in 20 years. Kiran wants to know how he's even doing this, but he's already unsheathing the sword. Without hesitation, he cuts the hilt. Kiran asks what he's doing. With a somewhat possessed look, Suan says he has no idea, but it's going to be an interesting future. The next morning, a carriage departs from Houseverse Castle. The promised day had arrived far too quickly. Shemdrayan presents himself before his father, who asks once again, is he truly determined to go to the front lines? Simshan responds that yes, his heart is already there. The Duke gives a nod and tells the knight to release the beast. The knight takes out a scroll, and Cyan wonders if he's about to use summoning magic. The scroll glows with a red pentagram. A creature with flames on its back begins to emerge, until a hellhound stands face to face with Cyan. Seeing the creature, Cyan is sure that his father and the knights have prepared this test well. Everyone's hands are on their hilts, ready to draw. Cyan realizes they're being cautious with his life. His father reminds him that everything comes with responsibility. He must prove his will by passing this test. Hearing the word test, the knight becomes hesitant. He was confused when Cyan asked to train with him. Our protagonist had said he had 3 days before the test and needed to prepare as best he could, so he asked the knight for help practicing combat techniques. The knight told him that if he wanted training, he should ask Kancher, someone his own age. Cyan played dumb, saying he didn't know why, but Kancher blanks every time he sees him. The knight realized he was in a tough spot. Lucien smiled when the knight agreed to grant his request, but said he wouldn't draw his sword. All he would do is defend. Cyan thanked him and asked for just one more thing. Not to tell his father anything that happened during their training. That was an order. Yukin hesitated, not understanding why Cyan made that request. Then suddenly, Cyan charged at him. Yukin was barely able to block the first. He attacked, but was left in disbelief at the strength of a mere 10-year-old boy. He realized that Cyan's movements were so fast, he had completely disappeared from sight. Cyan was already above him before he even noticed. While wondering where the kid had gone, he felt something and turned to block the attack. Kanan continued to strike without pause, but after several blows, he gave up, saying that unfortunately, he still couldn't beat him. However, he told Yukin that he did a great job, and thanked him for his help. Almost exhausted, Yukin replied that Shuyan had done an excellent job, still unable to believe that such a skinny boy could be so powerful. If what he felt that day was true, the current young master would be able to pass any test thrown his way. The hellhound stood face to face with Cyan and charged. Cyan remained calm as he saw the beast come in for a bite. Something flashed past the hellhound's eye, and it collapsed on the ground far away. Looking back, Cyan said that with his current strength, he needed to finish this quickly. The hellhound got up and decided he had to end this in one strike. He prepared for the attack, and suddenly, the slash had already landed on the hellhound's head. He leapt and drove the sword right into its cerebellum. The knights present were all stunned, while his father gave a small smile. Looking at the carcass on the ground, Lucien said it was a shame, so much blood had gone to waste. But he knew, if he started drinking it, people would think he was crazy, so he let it go. Wawiz then approached and congratulated Cyan, saying it was incredible. Given how things turned out, he said they would surely meet again on the front lines. Cyan thanked his father. Meanwhile, Kiran called out to him, asking if she was just some kitchen knife.
Our boy replied no, she's a demonic blade. Then she asked why she wasn't being used.
She could only regain her powers by consuming blood. As they walked toward the hellhound, she begged for just a little taste. Sanman told her not to worry, he would use her as much as she wanted. In the northern battlefield, ogres invaded, the alarm was sounded, and Walla ordered that none be left alive. The soldiers raised their swords and activated the Prison of Salvation. A massive shining cross appeared on the battlefield, and a magical circle formed under the feet of all the ogres. From the circles, cords of light emerged and bound them. With them immobilized, the soldiers seemed able to easily defeat them. One of the ogres screamed as a soldier approached. The soldier gripped his blade tightly, prepared to strike, and with a single blow, decapitated the monster. Nearby, Shemta and Emily watched the battle. Emily was terrified. She asked why he had brought her to a place like that. Strangely, Shem felt nostalgic being there. When asked him what he thought about being on the front lines, and Shem said he was a little nervous. His father warned him that death could come at any moment in that place, so he'd better not let his guard down. Shem smiled and said he would keep that in mind. On the front lines, death was a constant, with 3 or 4 battles happening each day. Strategically, the knights did their best to halt the demon army's advance. Cyan's tent was the farthest and safest one. The problem was that, since he was now being watched, he couldn't find a chance to feed Karen. While wondering if he'd have to wait until nightfall, he asked Emily what she was doing under the blanket. She was panicking, saying the Duke had warned that they could die at any moment. Shun replied, "Then pack your things and leave." But she screamed, saying it was impossible. He couldn't be left alone. There were demon monsters everywhere. If she fled, who would take care of him? Suddenly, she left the tent, saying she was going to get something to eat. Seking tried to ask her about the cloak he had requested, but she ignored him. He was annoyed, because that damned girl never obeyed him. Later, he placed a dummy in his bed, thinking maybe it would be enough. When Emily asked if he was really going to stay in a place like that, She told him he was very diligent. If the Duke found out, he'd be proud. Shiming ignored her and said he was leaving. She could sleep there peacefully. He looked back and warned her to say he was sleeping if anyone asked. She agreed. At that moment, they needed every soldier possible on the front lines, so it was only now that Cyan could move freely. He activated an ability that allowed him to glide through the mist and headed toward a dangerous region, where he found a pack of hellhounds. But he was excited. This was the perfect place to test Kiran. As soon as she was summoned, she smelled the blood and told Cyan that she couldn't take it anymore. She needed to cut something. The hellhounds lunged at him, and Cyan told her to feed as much as she wanted. He began slaying the hounds, activating a skill called Furious Mist Storm. After finishing off a hellhound, he pulled blood from its head and took a huge gulp, wearing a crazed expression. He said, "That's what I'm talking about." Kiran, thrilled and even tossing out little heart symbols, responded with excitement. They continued hunting, and Kiran said those creatures were far too weak, but she told him not to worry. The night was still young, and there were plenty of monsters out there. Kiran said she was excited. A carriage made its way along a mountain path, transporting a girl with white hair. Inside, someone warned that the place was very dangerous, and they should retreat. However, the girl replied not to treat her like a child. She was a princess of the empire, and it was her duty to help her family. If the woman said one more word, she'd take out her anger on her. The woman apologized immediately. The girl then mentioned that the young master of Duke Vert was also on the front lines, and was the same age as her. She asked if the Duke had the guts to bring his youngest son. Her companion replied no. In fact, the boy had volunteered. Since they were the same age, maybe they could become friends. But the princess said she wasn't interested, and that she was going to sleep. Her companion responded, "All right." As the princess got ready to sleep, she asked for his name. Her attendant answered, "Cyan Vert." Under the light of the moon, she thought about that name. Meanwhile, harpies were being slain, and Alos was ordering his men to check on the wounded. On the battlefield, dozens of harpies and griffins lay dead, and the knights were preparing to return to base. Alos looked to the side, and from atop a mark, someone drew a source. It was Cyan, who had participated in that battle. Alos wondered if he was adjusting well to life on the front lines. Cyan replied yes. He was learning a lot every day. His father said he had expected Cyan would want to go back home, but he had stayed there for quite some time already. He told Cyan he was very proud of him. Those words left Cyan in disbelief. His father walked away, saying they had something to talk about in the morning. Cyan agreed, saying it was the first time he had seen their father with such a proud expression. That same night, Cyan went out hunting again. What he found was a deathworm, a creature that usually hid deep in the valleys. Kiran told him he looked exhausted, and asked why he wouldn't let her take over his body. Cyan replied that she was being too obvious, but Kiran insisted, saying the deathworm's flesh regenerated faster than he could damage it. As much as he didn't want to admit it, he knew it was true. He had been there for over a month, drinking the blood of countless demonic creatures every day, so why wasn't it enough? The worm attacked him again, and he said he didn't stand a chance like that, so he agreed to play by Kiran's rules for a while. Kiran gleefully said it was time to go crazy and activated the 9th assassination technique, the manifestation of the demonic blade. Numerous slashes appeared around the worm, as Shaz stood there with a darkened face. The creature writhed in agony, and our hero said he would cut it into pieces. He leaped into the air, and activated the 8 petals fluttering technique, striking the worm with countless slashes from top to bottom. The worm's mouth exploded, as our hero, now fully demonic, finished it off. Meanwhile, one of the knights touched the blood of a hellhound and noted it hadn't died long ago. It was Yuken and Wallace examining the area. They said it looked like the work of a demonic tribe. But upon inspecting the body, Wallace said those cuts looked oddly familiar. It felt like déjà vu. Yuken appeared from behind a rock and told them he had something to show them. Wallace asked what it was. When Yuken raised the torch, it revealed the death worm cut in half, leaving Wallace stunned. He couldn't believe that that organization was behind it. The manifestation of the demonic blade had taken over Xian's body, allowing Kiran to use her full power. However, if he got distracted, his mind would be completely consumed as well. The next day he woke up saying he must be insane for using that kind of power just to kill a simple demonic beast. He got out of bed saying he was lucky to have drunk so much blood, otherwise his body would have been destroyed. Suddenly, Kiran said she understood now. He looked like a 10-year-old boy, but he didn't talk or act like one. Not to mention, it was the first time he used her, yet he seemed way too familiar. He knew the geography of the valley too well and fought like someone who had mastered the mist technique for over 30 years. Kiran remembered that he once said he had died before, and now she was certain. He was a regressor, wasn't he? Cyan replied that he had explained it already, but apparently she didn't understand. The poor girl bugged out, yelling at him, saying how was she supposed to understand something that serious when he said it so casually. Cyan said that explaining things was boring. She replied that from watching the way he fought, defeating him shouldn't have been easy. If he had the demonic blade, he must have lost to the wielder of Duran Dark, which meant either he lost a duel, or he was betrayed. Recalling the expression on his face when he saw the sacred sword, she was sure he had been betrayed. She warned him, if he had returned to prepare for revenge, he'd better remember something. If she caught him being lazy, or weak for even 1 second, she would devour him on the spot. Cyan punched himself. Everything was chaos outside his tent. Emily ran up to him, wide-eyed. Something happened, she panted. Cyan frowned. What is it? She swallowed. They found the body of a demon, a death worm at the valley's entrance. His heart skipped. You're not saying it's the one I killed? Emily shook her head. It's been ages since anyone saw a beast that powerful so close to the border. Cyan pressed on. Anything else? Any rumors? Before she could answer, a knight appeared behind him and called his name. Young Master Cyan, the Duke wishes to speak with you. He stiffened. This wasn't good. The Duke's group had shown up yesterday while he was out hunting. He'd abandoned the hellhound carcass without cleaning it up, hoping to avoid notice before entering the academy. Now there was nowhere to hide. He saluted and entered his father's tent, certain the Duke already knew everything. His father greeted him coolly and said, "Sit." Shen obeyed, steeling himself for what was coming. "Let's be direct," the Duke began. "What were you doing out here last night?" Lucien's pulse raced. He forced himself to smile. "I went to bed early, father." For a moment the Duke seemed to believe him. Then his eyes narrowed. "Strange," he muttered. "The cuts on that wolf carcass matched your blade precisely." He looked at Cyan. "Am I rushing to judgment?" Shen opened his mouth, but the Duke held up a hand. "Something is wrong. Last night's incident we're still investigating, but it appears linked to the Mist organization." "The Mist?" Shen's blood ran cold. "An ancient sect," his father explained, "with unclear motives. They once massacred noble houses, under the guise of purification. Then they vanished, 300 years ago. Yet the same mist was present on that death worm's body, and that residue of power is only left by those who worship the god of mist. In my estimation, whoever killed that worm belongs to the mist." Suming's jaw dropped. "You traced a 300-year-old group from nothing but a footprint?" "I don't know why they disappeared," the Duke said, "but be cautious. I will report this to the Empire." Lucien relaxed. It looked like his father would drop his suspicion. The Duke waved his hand. "Enough. Have you heard about today's visitor?" "I heard it's someone of the royal family," Shen said. "Correct," the Duke said with a small smile. "I'd like a favor." Cyan's heart lurched. "What favor?" A herald sounded a trumpet. "His Majesty, the Emperor approaches." Everyone in the camp bowed, as a pale regal figure disembarked from his carriage. The Emperor, looking like a noble vampire, stepped forward. "No need for formalities, old friend," he told Lucien. Then he turned to Cyan. "Is this your son?" Cyan bowed. "Youngest of House Vert, at your service." The Emperor's eyes glowed with approval. "Remarkable to see your boy on the front lines. Your children are extraordinary." Lucien clapped Cyan on the shoulder. "Present him as my son," he whispered later. In the past life Cyan had always hidden in the shadows. No one even knew he existed. The Emperor smiled. "Perfect time then, to introduce another," he gestured, and a princess stepped forward, white-haired, poised. "I am Princess Aranciris, 5th Princess of the Empire." Shen's breath caught. He remembered her as the unfortunate princess in the Academy's records. One of the Duke's requests was that he escort her. Shen was baffled. He wasn't exactly skilled in courtly etiquette. But the Duke explained, "You'll be the same age in the Academy. Better to travel together." Suming recalled seeing her once before, changing classes. The Emperor added, "It's always good to know someone from the royal family. Even if she won't stay long, this is a valuable connection." Simon wasn't thrilled, but he saw his father's intent. He wanted them to form a bond, as Lucien and the Emperor had. Simon exhaled. "Father, you've chosen poorly. That girl isn't suitable for such closeness." Lucien sighed. "I can't reveal why. I know the future. For now, you'll follow these orders." As the troops marched, Aranciris glanced at a crimson lake. "Why is the lake red?" Cyan explained. "It's called the Blood Lake. Wounded creatures bathe in it to restore their mana, hence the color." She peered down at the floating carcasses. "So it's red because of monster remains?" "Essentially," he said. She nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you for explaining, Cyan Vert." He merely smiled and walked on, knowing his father's plans were far from over. At the end of the path, Erin asked what lay beyond. Shen replied that there was a demon kingdom. She asked, "Is there a demon king there?" Shen said yes. If she kept going, she might even meet him herself. In truth, he was just teasing her. It was a silly question. Suddenly, a flash of light streaked across the sky, a yellow mist cutting through the clouds. Ervins gasped. "What is that?" Sunjui's eyes narrowed. A golden light usually means demonic creatures are entering. She panicked. "They've already arrived?" The Duke gave immediate orders to protect His Majesty and began moving the group toward the third outpost. The Emperor looked disappointed. Wallace, the Duke, wondered what he meant. The Emperor then drew his sword. "I'm not here just for a visit. I was bored," he said with a grin. Wallace bowed his head. "Understood." The Emperor announced to his men that they would assist the eradication squad in fighting the creatures. Wallace then called Cyan over. He responded immediately. Aaron was confused. "Wait, are you really going to fight those monsters?" Cyan nodded. "I may be in the background, but I always fight on the front lines." She shouted that she wanted to go with him. Shen thought, "What is she doing?" She insisted that they were the same age, so it should be fine. But Cyan warned her. "This is a battlefield, not a playground." Still, she kept insisting. Suming finally called out to Yukin, who appeared behind her and told her he would escort her to the safest area. She turned, startled. "Who are you?" "Come with me, princess," he said calmly. She yelled at Cyan, calling him insolent for treating an imperial princess like this. But Xian snapped back. "Every second you waste here will lead to more deaths on the front lines. Are you ready to take responsibility for that?" At that she began to cry. Still just a child in the end. Xumian turned away. "Go. Stop acting like a spoiled brat." The three stood there in silence. On the battlefield, soldiers were being devoured by what appeared to be demonic slugs. Wallace raised his sword and shouted for the troops to return to formation. He pointed and ordered them to protect the Emperor and eliminate all nearby creatures. With a war cry, the soldiers charged into battle. Suf of House Severos had two wives. The first, named Anna, who had passed away, and the second, Cassandra, who was the current ruler of the empire. The first wife bore him two children, and the second also bore two. However, the fifth princess was born to a commoner woman, which led to widespread disdain. Despite this, she never submitted to anyone. As a member of the royal family, she fulfilled all her duties and studied harder than anyone else. Still, many nobles were against her. Through false accusations, they exiled her from the imperial palace and sent her to an isolated place. That's how she became known as the unfortunate princess. Shen recalled that he had heard about this from his father in his past life. He murmured, "Politics and royal life are always like this." Meanwhile, the electric slugs were being slaughtered on the battlefield. Watching the explosions from afar, Shinrain was awed. The Emperor truly was incredible. The Emperor drove his sword into the ground and activated a sacred lightning spell, easily destroying all the slugs around him. Shin had heard that the Emperor's magic had reached 8 stars. If he hadn't become Emperor, he would have been the president of the Magic Council. Clearly, these mid-tier monsters were nothing to him. Later, Wallace and the Emperor shared drinks, reminiscing about old times. The Emperor spoke about the Empire's current state. Recently, assassinations of nobles had increased, causing growing unrest. Wallace guessed that this must be connected somehow. The Emperor revealed that all the assassinated nobles had been known as corrupt officials and a black mist had been found at each crime scene. "Do you know anything about this?" he asked. Wallace said it looked like the followers of the Black Mist had resumed their activity, since he had also found traces near their base. The Emperor agreed that it might be the case, but they would need to investigate further. He admitted that part of him wanted to thank whoever was getting rid of that trash, but the rising tension in the Empire was dangerous. Then he shared something that had particularly caught his attention. One noble had claimed that the fifth princess was involved in these incidents. Wallace was surprised. "People are trying to pin this on her." The Emperor nodded. "I know it's nonsense to blame a child, but if I die, Wallace, please take care of my daughter." Wallace swore an oath to do so. The Emperor thanked him. That night, rain fell over the tents. Emily asked Cyan if he really said all those things to the princess. He ignored her and said he was going out. She pressed, saying if he kept acting like that he'd never get married and would live a lonely life. Cyan brushed it off. "Forget it, I'm going to train." She asked if he was really going out in the rain. He told her not to worry, and just get some sleep. But clearly, Erin had overheard everything from nearby. Erin was startled and asked who she was. She lowered her hood and asked if he was heading somewhere. However, if he wasn't busy, she wanted to talk about something. When Emily saw the princess there, her eyes lit up with excitement. Erin asked how long they had been there, and Sean replied that it had been over a month. But he wanted to know why she was there. She hesitated, staying silent, and both Emily and Sean asked to be left alone, clearly annoyed by her sudden appearance. Everyone left, telling them to enjoy their little tent moment. Sean knew he was 40 years old and had absolutely no interest in her. Erin apologized for what happened that morning. Awkwardly, Lucien admitted that he had also acted wrongly. She laughed, saying she would have done the same thing. She said she knew he was respected by those around him, unlike her. Sean hadn't expected her to have that kind of personality. She said she knew he was heading to the academy and that she wanted to be friends with him. However, Sean politely apologized and said that, unfortunately, he couldn't help her. If she had come to get closer to him, it was better for her to leave. She lowered her head, saying she only said that to break the ice, but he was cruel. Does he think I'm only a princess by name? She thought. Actually, that is how things work, isn't it? Sean remained silent. Tearing up, she said that now she understood his perspective. There was nothing for him to gain by being close to her, and she apologized for wasting his time. Maybe she made a mistake thinking they could talk. He was completely different from Lord Achel. Hearing that name shocked Sean. He turned around and grabbed her arm. She told him to let go and asked why he was acting that way. Sean asked her how she knew his older brother. She said she met him during a visit to the academy last year, and he had told her to keep being a strong princess. Sean knew his brother well. It didn't make sense for him to give advice like that. That must have been the start of his manipulation. A plan to bring down Princess Arin. Sean said he was going to give her some advice. But suddenly the tent began to shake. Emily burst in, yelling for them to run. But a pillar was already about to crush them. An explosion followed, and Emily was thrown from the tent. From a distance, everyone saw a giant ogre and realized that was the young master's tent. Emily, crying, feared for the worst. As the ogre raised its club, the emperor asked what was happening, and a knight reported that the princess's tent had been attacked by a high-level creature. The emperor immediately ordered all frontline troops to assist her and demanded to know who she had gone to meet in such a dangerous place. The giant ogre continued destroying the rear section of the base. Hidden nearby, Sean was stunned. There shouldn't be ogres in that region. They only appear in the depths of the valley. He wondered if this was somehow his fault when Emily called his name. He turned and saw her crying, saying she thought he was dead. He remembered the moment of impact. He had managed to grab Urain and dodge the blow just in time. Of course, someone capable of challenging the Demon King's army wouldn't die to a mere troll. Urain asked if the knights would be okay. Emily reassured her. They were strong. Still crying, she said that if she hadn't been there, none of this would have happened. It was all her fault. The knights said it was all right. Their duty was to protect them. Smiling, one said she could trust them to give their lives if necessary. But just then, a knight shouted a warning. A giant ogre hand was swinging down behind them. The poor man was crushed. Blood splattered as the ogre lifted its red-stained club. Sean told the princess to get behind him. The ogre seemed to sniff the air. Sean realized that, just as he suspected, these monsters were after him. He tried to tell Emily to take the princess and run, but before he could finish, Emily had already grabbed Aaron and dashed away. "Damn it," he muttered. "She's fast, especially when running." The ogre charged to crush him. Sean couldn't use the demon blade. It would expose him. He was still puzzled. Why were these creatures hunting him? What was this smell they were sensing? Karen's voice echoed in his mind. To get stronger, you drank the blood of many demonic creatures. Now, to monsters you smell like a feast. They're drawn to you. Sean was furious. That damned woman knew and didn't tell me. She laughed in his head. Did you forget? The only thing I want is your body. Sean grabbed her presence and turned it into a dagger. What are you doing? She asked, mockingly. Sean realized he had no choice. He had to go all in. He charged forward, shouting that he didn't care anymore. The ogre swung its fist. With sharp movement, Sean sliced off its arm, then dashed behind it, slashing at its neck. With just 2 strikes the beast collapsed. Now, he muttered, just need to deal with the witnesses. In front of him stood a crowd of creatures. Kagran chuckled. You're a little too excited for this festival. Sean froze. A demonic dragon had just appeared. The dragon roared to the heavens. Kairon said calmly, don't be afraid. He was still just a little cub. Sean immediately activated the manifestation of the demon blade. He pointed the dagger and said he needed to eat him. Meanwhile, the army was fighting off the ogres that had invaded the base. The Emperor and Wallace had just killed the last one, and the Emperor asked if there was any trace of the princess. Wallace apologized, saying, Young Master Sean was in danger because of her. The Emperor told her to calm down and explain properly. He then asked Emily if she was Sean's servant, and she confirmed. So he ordered her to explain what had happened. Trembling, Emily explained that Sean had drawn the attention of the creatures so the princess could escape. The Emperor said nothing. One of the knights said he remembered the location. If they gave the command, they could go rescue him. The Emperor yelled at Wallace, demanding to know why he hadn't given the order yet. Wallace said they weren't going. Both the Emperor and Aaron were shocked and asked what he meant. Wallace said the recovery of Her Highness was the priority. If that place fell, demonic beasts would invade the entire empire. They needed to rebuild the base first. That was the only way to prevent further losses. Emily then asked what they were going to do about the young master. Wallace said the boy had already fulfilled his duty by evacuating the princess. That's how things worked in House Verte. The Emperor and Aaron watched him speak while Aaron thought to herself, "Once again, it's all my fault." Suddenly, they heard a roar in the sky. When Aaron looked up, the dragon was flying overhead, and she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The boy was hanging from its tail, being carried away. In this world, dragons are the creatures closest to the gods and are considered the most evolved form of life. Normally, meeting such a noble creature would be an honor, so why was it flying so close to these people? Aaron screamed his name, and the Emperor asked Wallace what his son was doing up there. Wallace stood silently. The Emperor demanded to know why he wasn't doing anything. Meanwhile, up above, Sean didn't know what to do. He had just wanted to drink a little demon blood, but things had gotten complicated. As soon as the dragon appeared, he challenged it. A swarm of weaker monsters had attacked him, so he used the Furious Mist ability to wipe out the battlefield. Then he approached the dragon and realized it wasn't fully grown yet. But the dragon prepared an attack. Sean was in shock. An explosion followed, as a laser sliced through the entire battlefield. He managed to dodge next to the dragon's head, and muttered that it was just a kid. "How dare you spit at me the first time we meet," he yelled, slashing its eye. But now, suspended in midair, the dragon struck back. Just as the blow was about to pierce him, Sean smiled and activated the mist blade, using the 8 fluttering petals to slash the dragon from all directions. The beast crashed to the ground with a massive explosion, and Sean realized just how impossible it was to kill a dragon. His shoulders were already worn out. But now that it was on the ground, it was time for the final blow. However, the dragon beat its wings to create distance. Sean knew it was going to fire the laser again, but when he looked, the dragon was fleeing, terrified, flying off in panic. Sean launched himself at it, yelling, "You're not running away, you bastard." That's how he ended up hanging from the dragon. The problem was, when he looked down, everyone was watching him. Now how was he going to explain this? Karen asked why he was frozen like a statue, and he replied, "Can't you see everyone down there?" "No, girl." Karen was furious, saying she would have to use her powers after being summoned. But Sean said if he did anything demonic here, he'd end up on a stake. She screamed, "Then what are you gonna do, you little bastard?" He shouted back, "I'm thinking, shut up." Down below, Wallace finally began to chant a light spell. Sean instantly recognized it, an 8-star attack. He couldn't believe his father was about to fire that at his own son. And that's exactly what he did, raising his sword to the sky. Lucian was panicking. What kind of father is this? The dragon, however, swooped down toward the magic and began dodging everything. Sean muttered, "Good job, well done, buddy, but don't relax yet." The real problem appeared from behind. He saw it coming, it was right in front of him. There was no way to dodge. The blast struck the leg he was holding on with, and Sean fell. He was sad, thinking he had lost his lunchbox. While Kieran shouted at him to protect himself, he was going to fall head first. He insisted he couldn't use any mist techniques. She yelled in his face to stop being so cautious. He was going to die like this. He told her to shut up, he was thinking. Until suddenly, he had an idea. Honestly, he's really not going to die, and she's in disbelief that he's about to throw himself into that. Down below is the Red River. He says he doesn't have a choice. He already fell into the Tawish River once. Man, this must be the same thing. Someone from afar watches the fleeing dragon and says it's rare to witness a sight like this. The guy behind him replies it's probably just a young man who got separated from his group. The silver-haired guy points in a direction and asks if there are demons over there, but his friend replies that it's actually the human region. He looks toward the horizon, curious, and says dragons shouldn't be defeated by humans. He goes quiet for a second, and the guy with glasses asks if something happened. He points ahead and says he's feeling a strange, almost familiar energy coming from that direction. His friend says they can go check it out, but warns him that he's forbidden from annihilating everything just out of boredom. He spreads his wings and says, "Alright, I won't cause any problems, then flies off saying he'll be right back. Meanwhile, Sean is crawling out of the blood lake. He throws himself onto a nearby rock, cursing up to the 10th generation. This one really wasn't easy for the boy. He asks Kieran if she's alive. Kieran, all sticky and covered in gunk, says not to talk to her, she's contemplating how to kill him. He says he'll give her a rinse when they get back. She says fine but tells him to wake up and pay attention. They're in the demon realm now. Sean tells her not to worry, it's very rare to encounter a high-level demon in this area. Then, from behind, a voice says, they knew they'd find something interesting. Sean is startled. That's a voice he'd never forget. The demon behind him asks if he's human, and Sean immediately knows it's the Demon King Valkyrian. He remembers that, in the past, this guy said the exact same thing, that Sean was like evil condensed into a single person. Valkyrian asks why he's not answering. Aren't you human? And in a flash, he's suddenly behind Sean, asking if he really wants to pick a fight. Sean flinches and turns around swinging, but Valkyrian easily dodges, although a tiny strand of his hair is cut. He's impressed, saying that indeed, the races hold infinite potential. Kieran asks who that is, and the protagonist replies, the Demon King. She immediately says, if he's the Demon King, you think you're going to win? He knows that it's impossible. The best option is to run away, but his hand is trembling. He wonders if escaping is even possible, but is caught off guard when the demon lies down and tells him to relax. He's confused. Did this guy really come here to fight a kid? Valkyrian lays down saying, you really think I came here just to beat up a child? Sean is totally messed up, wondering why this lunatic is lying on the ground. Valkyrian asks again, are you human? Sean says yes. Valkyrian doesn't even seem curious how he got there. Sean explains he was carried by the river. Valkyrian figures this must be his first time in the demon realm. Then he mentions he sensed a strange energy and asks Sean what he is. Sean says he's just a normal human. Valkyrian replies that he says that, but he seems to know exactly who he is. Sean admits that makes sense. It's not the first time they've met. Valkyrian stretches and says, maybe, though it's the first time he's seen the human. The boy asks why he came here, still wondering why this guy is so relaxed. Valkyrian says he felt a strange energy, while out on a stroll. Sean is confused. The Demon King goes on walks? Valkyrian confirms. Of course. As the Demon King, he needs to keep an eye on the lands he rules. He stands up and asks, boy, what did I just say? Sean repeats, the Demon King needs to keep an eye on the lands he rules. Valkyrian points at him and says, you're not even surprised, huh? He suddenly starts yelling, are you sure you've never been seen before? What kind of kid reacts like this? Sean knows that the invasion of the demon realm is about to begin, but this guy is completely different from the one he once knew. What could have happened to change his attitude so drastically? Kieran asks, so, as Demon King, what does he want to do? Valkyrian smiles, saying it's bold to ask such a thing to the Demon King, but he adds, isn't it obvious? As long as my subordinates are alive and fed, there's nothing else I need to do. But everything changes if someone tries to mess with that. In that case, he'll wipe everyone out. That is his simple duty as Demon King. For a second, Sean felt the same demonic aura as the one who first attacked the Empire. Somehow, he has to prevent that from happening. He then asks Valkyrian if he wants to make a deal. Valkyrian asks, what kind? Sean says that something will happen to him in the future, an incident that will put all of his subordinates at risk. Valkyrian tells him to explain this nonsense. Sean says he doesn't know exactly how it'll happen, but it'll be an incident that becomes the catalyst for a war against humanity. Valkyrian crosses his arms and asks if Sean really believes that he, the Demon King, would attack the human lands. Sean says that's exactly why.